For this interview.
No problem.
So, how is your health today, Dan?
I'm very healthy. I'm good. Yeah, feeling very good.
Perfect. So, do you still plan to compete again in MMA?
I would very much like to. Yeah, I'm still not cleared to fight yet. I still need to go and see the doctors and do whatever tests they need to do. They need me to do to prove that I'm healthy to compete. But yeah, I still plan on fighting again. Only a couple more there, maybe 2 or 3 more fights.
All right.
My job is commentary now, so I'm going to stick with this as a full-time job.
Yeah, I have read some news about maybe a fight that you'd like to do against Diego Sanchez. Do you have still this fight in mind?
Yeah, well, that's one of the opponents I would like to fight if possible. But there are lots of fights out there that would be good, and I'm interested in competing at a lower weight class. Obviously, I fought at welterweight for my whole career, but now I feel like I would compete much better at a lighter weight. So even possibly not at lightweight, but maybe a catch weight, maybe like an exhibition match would be good. But the problem is that because I'm still not sure how long it's going to take me to get cleared to fight, it's very difficult to say who would be good to fight, because the UFC could be full of different fighters by then. It's constantly changing.
Of course, yeah. Yeah. So as far as I'm concerned, I can't wait to see you fighting again. Yeah, I've been watching your last fight in Nottingham in 2012 as a media, and I really enjoyed this fight.
Excellent, thank you.
Do you like your new job as a commentator right now?
Oh, I do. I love it. Yeah, it's really nice to be able to travel to fight week regularly and to be around the fighters and to meet the fans and just be around fight week without having to worry about making weight and then fighting at the end of it. It's a really fun time to be around, and unfortunately when you're fighting it's easy to become distracted because you have lots of things to concentrate on. So yeah, of course, it's a fun job, and I get the best seat in the house to watch the fight.
And what do you think about this division, the welterweight right now?
I think it's a great division. I think it's a lot more exciting than it was when I was competing. Given the fact that a lot of the guys in the division now are very good strikers, there's much more kickboxing going on, and we're seeing more exciting bouts. The fight this weekend, the rematch between Johny Hendricks and Robbie Lawler. I'm looking forward to that fight more than any other I have done this year. It's going to be a really good fight, and I only think the fighters are getting better as well, which is exciting to see where the sport's going to be in a few years.
Yeah, of course. And do you have some predictions about the winner?
Well, I try not to predict, but it's difficult. I'm a big Robbie Lawler fan. He's been around for a long time, and he had his UFC debut 12 years ago, and I've been a fan ever since he first started. And he's improved a lot as a fighter, and he's grown up a lot. And I was disappointed in his first fight with Hendricks, because I feel that he won the 3rd and 4th round, but then Hendricks managed to pull it back in the 5th. And I think that Robbie would be annoyed with himself. So I think we're going to be seeing a much better version of him this weekend. But at the same time, Johny Hendricks has recovered from his surgery, his injury. So I think we're going to see much more wrestling from Johny Hendricks. So it'll be interesting to see how Robbie Lawler deals with that. It's going to be a great fight. It's going to be so much better than the first one.
Yeah, for sure. Do you think we can expect to see GSP back in the UFC?
I'm not sure. I think he's keen to compete, but he's a professional athlete. He's been around for a long time competing, so it's very difficult to step away from that and not have anything in your life to give you that competition, to give you that same feeling of winning a fight. It wouldn't surprise me if we see him back in the UFC. I think that we could see him maybe in a couple of super fights, perhaps a fight with Nick Diaz or Anderson Silva or something like that.
Yeah.
From the photographs that I've seen of him recently, he's looking a lot bigger than he used to. So maybe a different weight class would suit him as well. So we'll see. I'm a big GSP fan. He's a good friend of mine. So I would like to see him compete, but at the same time, I don't think he should feel pressured to. I think he's done everything he needs to do within the sport to become a legend and to go down in the history books.
Yeah. So the UFC is coming back in Europe this February in Stockholm. What do you think about MMA growing in Europe and UFC now in Europe?
Well, it's growing so quickly. It's nice that the UFC are consistently in Europe now. It's been disappointing at times in the past when we've had a show in the UK and then we've had to wait 2 years until the UFC comes back. But it was a small company at one point, and they were doing 8 or 10 shows a year, and now I think it was 56 shows this year. So it's taken them some time to catch up because obviously there's a huge demand all around the world for the UFC. There are so many fans internationally. So now that we have a good European office set up and we have our own staff and we can effectively run shows on our own, we can do shows far more regularly, and I think that will be good both for the fans that are watching and for future fighters. It really helps if you're an upcoming MMA fighter and you can see the UFC come into your country, because then it feels so much more like the UFC is within reach. It seems like something like a dream that could come true for you.
Yeah.
And it's going to encourage more people to join the sport and to get involved, and that's what we need to get the sport growing and become more established.
Yeah, of course. Right now we have new icons in Europe, ambassadors such as Conor McGregor and Alexander Gustafsson. In another hand, we watched that the English fighters weren't so much successful with Michael, with Brad, and other guys. So, what do you think about MMA in England? Can we expect to see, this good talents, from UK, from England coming back?
Well, I hope so. Yeah, we had a bit of a bad run recently with Michael and Ross both lost in Sydney, and then we had
Luke
Barnett lost as well. So it's unfortunate, but they all fought hard. Michael Bisping was he's fighting the 5th best in the world, and Ross Pearson he got caught with a good shot from a tough upcoming opponent, and Luke and Brad both lost hard-fought decisions. So it's just the way the sport goes sometimes. I think we have lots of talent coming out of the UK, and I think that in the next couple of years we're going to see some new UFC fighters signed from the UK, and I think that they'll be even better than the previous fighters. The guys that are competing in the UFC now from the UK are already better than the guys from a few years ago. So we're still growing, but at the moment we're in we've got a bit of a dry spell going on. But obviously, we've got Conor McGregor in Ireland, and we've got Alexander Gustafsson and all the other Swedish fighters over here that are doing very well. So it's we've got good fighters in Europe, and that's what's most important. We just need this area of the world to have the talent. We've still got that.
Yeah, what do you think about Conor? Do you think he's playing well? The way he talks, the way he looks. As far as I'm concerned, I wasn't really at ease, at the time is now press conference when he was talking, just seated next to John Jones, Anderson Silva, fighters who proved a lot of things in this sport, and he hasn't yet, proved a lot of things. So what do you think about it?
I'm very interested to see how he develops as a fighter. He's still very early on in his UFC career, and although he's been impressive so far, we've not seen him against any real adversity yet. He's only been to decision once against Max Holloway. It was a great fight, but it was still very one-sided. Conor was in control of the fight throughout. So I think we'll really get to know what kind of person Conor McGregor is when he does hit some adversity and when he starts fighting these top guys, Chad Mendes, Frankie Edgar, Cub Swanson, and obviously the champion Aldo as well. That's what we're really going to see what Conor McGregor is made of. As of right now, I'm just interested to see how he's developing as a fighter.
Yeah.
One thing that we do know is that fans all around the world are fascinated by him. He has that star power, and regardless of where they put him on the card or where he's fighting, he'll always be one of the main attractions. And the UFC, we are an entertainment industry, and if somebody generates that kind of fan hype, then they're going to get these big opportunities, these big chances, and Conor's doing a good job of marketing himself right now.
Yeah.
You like him or not,
Yeah, of course. Yeah, for sure. So Dan, it's interesting because you fought already Anthony Johnson in your division, in the welterweight division, and now he's fighting Alexander in the light heavyweight division. You know some of his strength and weaknesses. What are the strengths and weaknesses of Anthony Johnson for his fight against Alexander Gustafsson?
Obviously, he's a very strong and very powerful athlete, and that is the most important thing that we have to remember. He has fight altering power. You know, he only has to land one good punch, and it can change the whole fight entirely. So, if he can close the distance against Alexander Gustafsson and get close to him and land a couple of shots, he could really cause him a lot of problems. It's also worth remembering that Anthony Johnson's a great wrestler. And against someone who is as tall and as lengthy as Alexander Gustafsson, and who is as good a kickboxer as Gustafsson, Anthony Johnson could probably use that wrestling to his advantage if he can get the fight to the floor. But at the same time, Alexander Gustafsson is a very, very tough test for anybody, and he's well established as the #1 contender right now. And I think he has all the skills to go on and take the belt off whoever holds it next year after the Jones-Cormier fight. He's a very, very talented athlete, and probably the best that we've got in Europe at the moment as far as a potential champion. But Anthony Johnson is a bad fight for anybody in that division. Even if he was fighting John Jones, Daniel Cormier next, I would be saying the same thing. He's a dangerous fight for anybody because he has that one-punch knockout power.
All right.
And we've seen it since he's been in the UFC. And in my opinion, now he's not cutting as much weight, and he's fighting at a weight class that's more suitable for him. I think we're going to see him. He's going to be a much better fighter now. He's not punishing himself to make a lower weight class. But even when he fought me, he was huge. I think he was 214 pounds on the night when he fought. So he was a light heavyweight then. The difference is that he'd had to cut 45 pounds to make the weight, whereas now he's not cutting nearly as much, which means he's going to have so much more energy, and then he's going to have so much more power. So I think he's more dangerous at light heavyweight than he was at welterweight.
All right. Thank you very much for this interview, Dan. I hope to meet you in Sweden in February, and we wish you a good end of the year and a good New Year's Eve.
Yeah, same to you, my friend. I will see you in Stockholm.
All right, with pleasure. Thank you very much, Dan.
Okay,
bye bye.